For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Hello and welcome. I'm Nitin Gokhale, and today on our evening program we are going to discuss something which is not exactly foreign policy but which is something of importance to India's defense and the defense sector. The corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board and breaking up the Ordnance Factory Board from its 41 factories into 7 different conglomerates is the subject on our evening discussion program, The Gist. And my guest today is someone who's closely associated, in fact, someone who initiated and steered through this entire process of the corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. Sanjay Jaju, IAS officer, currently the additional secretary in the Department of Defense of the Ministry of Defense, Government of India. Welcome to this program, Sanjay, and let me say and congratulate you and the ministry for taking a very bold step, which is defense reform, long in waiting. How did you go about it, and how do you see this panning out? It started on 1st of October, if I am not mistaken.
So it started off as part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan that started last year. In May 2020, the announcement was made by the Honorable Finance Minister. This was one of the pledges that were taken as part of creating Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense, subsequent to which, in principle, approval of the Union Cabinet was obtained in the month of July 2020. And after that, the entire process started. The process of getting a ground report so that we could take a call as to how this exercise needs to be done in. Whether we create one company, whether we create a holding company and multiple companies, or we create multiple companies with each one of the factories becoming a company, then consultations with the employees, their associations, and then based on all that, formulating a cabinet note. And finally, the cabinet on 16 June 2021 has given its approval to creating 7 companies out of the Ordnance Factory Board earlier that we had. And 41 factories have now been grouped into various blocks, and now you have the 7 companies. And as you're aware that on 1st October, the companies have effectively started to function. Ordnance Factory Board is no longer existent. The employees have been transferred on the deemed deputation basis to these companies. All the assets, liabilities, and books of accounts have now been handed over to the new companies. And on the Vijay Dashmi, that is 15th of October 2021, the 7 companies have been formally dedicated to the nation.
By the Prime Minister, yes. In fact, that was a very big landmark event, I would say, in one sense. This is, of course, part of the continuing process of defense reforms that the government has undertaken since 2019. First, the creation of the DMA, then the appointment of the CDS, and now, of course, corporatization of the OFB. How difficult was it to convince the OFB employees and the OFB officials to take this step, Mr. Jaju, as the additional secretary and somebody who steered this entire program through? How did you persuade them to accept this decision, apart from, of course, being a mandated decision by the government? But there must have been a lot of discussions on this. What were the highlights of that?
So, obviously, this is touted as one of the biggest reforms in the Ministry of Defense. In fact, Honorable Raksha Mantri in an article actually cited this to be one of the biggest reforms, in one of the biggest economic reforms, if one may use that. Here, when it comes to the ordnance factory, the writing was on the wall. There have been various committees which have recommended that there is a need for these organizations to improve in terms of their efficiency, in terms of their effectiveness. There were complaints in terms of quality. There were complaints in terms of costs, and there are multiple issues which have been highlighted in various studies and in various forums. It's not as if corporatization alone will solve all the problems, but at least come to a point where you make a start. On the one hand, if you ask the factory and if you ask the Ordnance Factory Board management, they would say that they lack autonomy. While on the other side, if you ask the users, they would say that they're not able to get accountability from these organizations. So how do you balance autonomy and accountability? I think the starting point is corporatization. When you convert them into companies, then you actually make them accountable for their performance. They don't have the luxury of drawing in from the ocean, that is the consolidated funds of India, and putting it back into the consolidated funds of India. So the accountability and the responsibility gets completely diffused. But here now you have a situation wherein these companies would be accountable for their performance. They would have to show to their principal shareholder, which is the government of India. They are 100% government-owned companies, as to what their returns are for the year, what are their revenues, what are their expenses. So everything will be completely transparent, and technically there is no hiding place. And on the other side, if you look at it uh, in terms of the autonomy, they get a lot of autonomy now. Earlier, general managers were appointed in the through Ministry of Defense. Now all that is not going to happen. You take your own decisions. Boards become completely autonomous, independent. They can take business decisions. And I think you'll also appreciate that management of manufacturing organizations globally is also going through uh, a metamorphosis or a transition. It keeps happening. There are
There is a
various
churn. There
there
is
is
a
a
churn
various
that yes.
yeah, everywhere it happens. I mean, there are various models of governance. What was relevant, say, 50 years back would not be relevant today, and what is relevant today will not be relevant 50 years down the line. So the models of business governance have also been evolving and changing, and in line with those models, the best suitable model considered is a corporate model. So they are like corporate entities, and the point that was being made to all the stakeholders was that it's in their best interest. It's not as if we are trying to take away the rights of the employees. There are central government employees. They have their own rights. They have been recruited under a particular service rules and service conditions. And our starting point was that because a lot of people had this uh, misplaced fear, if I may use that word, that these companies are being sold to private hands, and the
Yes.
character of them being government employees will go away. So all those things were clearly told to the stakeholders and their associations, that it's in your best interest, and we'll keep supporting these companies, because ultimately government still continues to be the owners of these companies. We have our rights, and will ensure that their interests are safeguarded. And Honorable Raksha Mantri also, in his uh, various meetings with the associations, have actually tried to uh, tell them that uh, it's a win-win proposition that is being rolled out. Now we have the 7 companies. We've converted contracts worth 65,000 crore. So you have a good order book in your hand. So a good beginning has been made. It's not as if these companies are being are being left high and dry. You have contracts. We have also given them advances, which is almost 60% of the annual requirement that they're going to be filling in. All this
Yes.
support has been given, and now it's for the new professional management to take over these organizations and lead them to a growth path, with the autonomy that is now being provided and the hand holding which will continue to be there. It's for the new management now to look at opportunities, try and shut up the top line, try and cut down the costs, and ultimately, improve the bottom line, which is actually the bottom line. I mean, in terms of the accountability that you give to the owner.
That's right. So, in fact, I have the headline that I've said here up there, if you see, is what are the benefits? So, I think one of the things that I see it as more efficiency, more productivity, perhaps, and competition will bring out the best out of clearly the experts in these companies. It's not as if they had no expertise. Would you agree to that? That this kind of competition and open, field will give them that much incentive to perform better.
Yeah, it is. In fact, there was no incentive for them to um create profit because they can't retain profit. So even if you
Exactly.
make profits, you ultimately flow it back into this larger pool. So now you make profits because you have the incentive of retaining it. You retain it for modernization, you retain it for upgradation, you retain it for business
R&D,
development
perhaps.
and
Yeah.
and research and development, and
Yes.
that's a huge incentive.
Right.
Secondly, you know when you look at these organizations, they have huge asset base. The total book value of the assets that have been transferred to these companies is about 80,000 crore, and so these are and these does not include the intangible assets, which is the skilled manpower, a very good quality manpower that is available within these organizations. It will
Exactly.
take years and decades for people to create an organizational strength like this. So you have the organizational strength, you have your own asset base, you have modern equipment. Governments have been actually supporting them in terms of their technologies, their machines, and a regular supply of capital budget has been also made to these companies, made to the factories earlier, and now it will be made to these companies as well.
Mhm.
You're starting from a very good base. It's now for the new management to leverage that base and explore business opportunities. Explore business opportunities not just within the defense sector. You can explore business opportunities in a lot of these dual use items, commercial items. For example, Yantra India Limited, a company uh, that's actually the supply chain company for the rest of them, has huge potential in terms of becoming part of the other sector supply chains, because the kind of expertise they have, the machines they have, the manpower that they have, they would definitely have an edge over others, provided they can produce quality products and at competitive price. Something similar with other organizations. For example, Munitions India Limited, our ammunition company. Uh, these are those items which are very fast moving, which are required everywhere in the world. Now it's for them to start exploring the global markets. All the restrictions that were there earlier, as a government
Yes.
department, no longer exist. They would they would not be under our control. They would not be under the control of the finance from the government. They have their own independent existence. They have their boards, which can take decisions, which can uh, come up with policies which improve the functioning of these organizations. We have also already done a visioning exercise for these companies, and I have with me a report for each one of these companies, which is nothing but the agglomeration of each one of these factories,
Right.
and these reports are coming up with business development plans, growth plans, and all this can be used by the new companies now uh, to start improving their efficiency and accountability. And what's actually important is to improve their factor productivity, because
Absolutely.
have the land, they have the machines, they have the human resources. It's now for them to leverage all that and improve their production. The earlier situation was a manufacturing organization which has an annual turnover of 11,000 crores, out of which 65% of it is going towards manpower cost. So you can't run a competitive manufacturing organization with such financial numbers. So what you need to now do is uh, start making use of all these resources that are being made available to you. And I'm pretty confident that the management now uh, uh, would would really leverage all this uh, and show up. And if you don't show up at the end of the year, the losses that you incur would have to be mitigated by somebody, and that's the shareholder, that's the government. And
Exactly.
obviously, the shareholder would ask questions when it comes to mitigating those losses. That cannot be the only way now the money can be given to these companies is from the equity route, from the
Exactly.
shareholder.
That's
So,
true.
so one would have to be accountable to the shareholder, which is here
Government.
100%.
Right. One final question, Mr. Jaju. This should also feed into India's quest for $5 billion worth of exports, defense exports from India by 2025. There's a huge opportunity for these companies to be part of that growth story, I suppose. Like you already mentioned that they can now explore global markets. Would they be good enough to get into those markets, or would the government have some hand holding done there also?
See, why not? I mean, as far as the hand holding is concerned, we have been hand holding the entire industry. We've improved all our procedures, the standard operating procedure that used to govern defense exports. We have created an online portal. All the exporters actually apply online, take their authorizations online. They don't need to do any running around the government offices. They're completely free now to do their businesses, which many of them are doing. Our defense exports have gone up from 1,500 crores about 4 years back to now about 10,000 crores, and
True.
all this is actually coming in from the process improvement that has been done. So it's now important that these new companies make use of all these facilitations which are being given out, and start exploring business markets and do business development. Now there's nothing that binds them to anybody. They are free
Correct.
birds. Of course, they're still government companies. They'll have to be uh, following certain process and procedures in terms of the accountability to the policies which the government as a whole has. I mean, you have your own vigilance policies and stuff like that, but beyond that, there is nothing that binds them to anything. It's important that they leverage all these opportunities and make use of all the schemes that we have for defense exports within the Ministry of Defense. Make use
Yes.
of the defense attaches who are working in various parts of the world. We have mandated them and we have given them a mandate to support defense exports. They have started to do that very effectively these days. So make use
Exactly.
of all that and explore business opportunities, both within
True.
and without, both within and outside. And as you rightly said, this is part of the overall reforms that are going on within the defense production ecosystem. We have been making genuine inroads into how defense manufacturing can become an economic multiplier for the country. We have
Exactly.
actually created uh, a good manufacturing ecosystem within our country with a good, healthy, robust mix of the public and the private sector. You have close to 500 companies which have taken license for defense manufacturing within the country. So that's a healthy sign. Now you have
Yes.
16 public sector companies which are also part of the manufacturing ecosystem. So it's important that all these public and private sector players join hand. And unless they do that, it would be absolutely impossible for us to achieve the $25 billion manufacturing number and the $5 billion export number that we've laid out in our vision document for 2024-25.
I'm sure you will do this, Mr. Jaju. Congratulations once again. I think you played a leading role. Your colleagues in the ministry, the minister, the Raksha Mantri, and the Prime Minister, I think everybody's led from the front. And I think this is one of the understated reforms, but very important and far reaching reforms. Congratulations once again. And thanks for joining us and giving us your time and giving us the insights into what you have done
So
so far.
this is a whole of the government approach here. So it will be there are various wings within the Ministry of Defense. There are various ministries outside our ministry. I think it's a collective effort put in, and that's why somebody said that the longest speech was mine because that was a vote of thanks speech
You had to thank so many people. Yes, I
during the
know.
launch. because we didn't want to miss out on anybody, because so many people have played a role. It's not us, everybody, all internal as well as external stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
No, congratulations once again, but thanks for your time and thanks for the insight.
Thank you, Nitin.
So viewers, this is something that we bring to you almost every evening from Monday to Wednesday or Tuesday to Thursday, depending on the availability of the subjects. Do keep watching Strat News Global. Do keep sending us feedback. And of course, you know where to follow us. Our YouTube channel is there for you to subscribe. And do keep watching the discussions every evening on The Gist and all our other programs that are running through the week and bringing in information which is not normally available to you elsewhere. Until the next time, it's goodbye.